Gentlemen, ready? The time is 1:30 p.m. and I hereby call the May 12th, 2021 meeting of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Before we begin, I have a few announcements. The ABZA meeting is being held in person and virtually in the fourth floor council chamber of the County City Building with Zoom video and phone teleconferencing options available via links and phone information posted on our website, sjcindiana.com/ABZA. In case anyone needs the phone-in information, our call-in number is 312-626-6799. The meeting ID is 949-1462-1155, and the password is 806352. Due to issues with usages of video by persons viewing meetings, the county has determined that it is appropriate to require during virtual and partially virtual meetings that members of the public viewing meetings keep their microphones and cameras turned off. The host of the meeting will turn the members of the public's microphones and cameras off. During portions of the meeting where public participation is permitted, the participating member of the public will have their microphone and camera, if any, turned on. If a member wishes to participate in this portion of the meeting, they should indicate this by using the raise hand feature in Zoom and/or by messaging the host in the chat function. When on the phone, please use *9 to use the raise hand feature to be called on, and you can use *6 to unmute. To use the raise hand feature on Zoom video, click the controls on the bottom of your screen. If you have two computer video windows open or have a phone line active with a video window open at the same time, you will create an echo effect, making hearing you impossible. Please choose one or the other options. In consultation with the St. Joseph County Department of Health, the following protocols will be in place for all meetings held in the council chambers. Face coverings will be required for everyone in the chambers, including board members, presenters, petitioners, and members of the public.
Present.
Regarding public comment, we will first ask for any public comment from those sitting in the chambers, then in the auxiliary seating in the building, and once those in person have provided their comment, those calling into the meeting remotely will be given the opportunity to provide public comment. Those wishing to provide public comment in person should line up on the footprint stickers on the floor leading up to the podium over here to my left. Hand sanitizer has been placed next to the podium. We ask that you sanitize your hands after you leave the podium area. Signage sheets for public comment have been removed to prevent everyone from touching the same pen. For this reason, please clearly state your name and address. Please do not be surprised if you are asked to spell your name for the record. Your speaking time will not start until after this is accomplished. We appreciate your compliance with these guidelines and your patience as we navigate these unprecedented times. Due to wearing face coverings and for the benefit of people listening over the phone, we also ask that board members state their name when making a motion and a second. Last but not least, please silence or turn off your cell phones so they do not disturb others at this meeting. And one additional item, if you are here for petition number 10, which is 51850 Portage Road, that has been withdrawn and will not be heard now or ever in the future unless they establish their petition. So again, number 10, which is 51850 Portage Road, has been withdrawn. All right. Sam, may we have the reading, or I'm sorry, may we have the roll call, please?
Ms. Deutscher?
Present.
Mr. Hawley?
Present via Zoom.
Mr. Moffett? Mr. Ritzema?
Present.
Mr. Schaefer?
Here.
Mr. Tavernier?
Here.
Mr. Velleman?
Here. Oh, we have 7 today. That's the first time in about a year, I think. That works out great. Okay. Like I said, can we read? Yes.
Abby Wiles, Director. It's my understanding, based on my conversation with Terry Lane, petitioner's agent for number 1 that he intends to withdraw.
Okay.
But I think that he would like to make a statement.
Well, then can we have the reading of petition number 1, and then he can withdraw it?
The petition of Richard W. Schubert Living Trust seeking the following variances. 1 from section 154.092A to allow a lot area of 8.3 acres where a minimum of 20 acres is required for lot 1 of a proposed subdivision. 2 from section 154.092A to allow a lot area of 9.26 acres where a minimum of 20 acres is required for lot 2 of a proposed subdivision. 3 from section 154.092A to allow a lot area of 9.86 acres where a minimum of 20 acres is required for lot 3 of a proposed subdivision. And 4 from section 154.092C to allow lot frontage of 112 feet where a minimum of 200 feet is required for lot 3 of a proposed subdivision, located at an unaddressed property of 30 acres, more or less, at the southwest corner of the intersection of Miller Road and Pine Road, Green Township, Zoned A, Agricultural District, County.
Mr. Lang?
Yes. On behalf of the petitioner, I would like to withdraw this petition at this time.
All right. We have to motion that and second that, since he's doing it now, or does it not matter?
Brandy, it's my-
You can just do it without your,
It's my understanding that it doesn't require a vote.
yeah, I don't believe that it requires your vote. He's
All right.
just taken away what you could vote on.
So in addition to number 10, petition number 1 for Schubert Living Trust on Miller and Pine Road has been withdrawn as well, too, number 1. Can we have a reading of petition number 2, please? Thank you, Mr. Lang.
The petition of David Kapika seeking the following variances. 1 from section 154.070C1A1 to allow an accessory area of 2,160 square feet where a maximum of 2,112 square feet is allowed. And 2 from section 154.070C1A1 to allow an accessory structure with a height of 21 feet where 19 feet is allowed. Property located at 10839 Puamo Drive, Penn Township, Zoned R, Single Family District, County.
Yes, sir. No, I'm sorry. Hold on. Staff. Sorry, Ryan.
This is Ryan Fellows with staff, and we see on, let's see if I have the, okay. There's a couple of pictures of the site. In addition, here's the aerial view. And here's the proposed site plan. The petitioner will go ahead and plead their case. Staff has reviewed it and found that it does not meet the criteria found in state law, and that this there's not something abnormal or unusual about the property or the shape or size of it, which does not allow it to be used fully.
So this is Abby Wiles. I'm the director of the Area Plan Commission. It's staff's understanding that the petitioner is proposing to construct an outbuilding that would be used to store equipment related to an aircraft repair operation of sorts, and we are recommending against because the property is zoned residential. Accessory buildings are permitted in line with the development standards in the residential district, and we feel that the request exceeds what would typically be permitted. And as Ryan said previously, there's, in staff's opinion, nothing unusual about the property that would warrant a granting of a variance. But we'll let the petitioner speak.
Okay.
David
Yes, sir.
Kapika, 10839 Poemo Drive. I'm an aircraft mechanic. I have a business at the Mishawaka Pilots Club in Elkhart, Indiana, 33 years. And I'm going to, airplanes come to me to be worked on. I do annual inspections and the like. I'm selling my hangar and I'm going to an all-mobile business where I'll have a truck and I'll take my equipment and tools to the aircraft, whether it be Plymouth, Michigan City, anywhere here in the Michiana area. So on occasion, I have a need for hauling an aircraft wing to a repair facility in Kendallville, Indiana, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year, roughly, depending on damage, how often I take the wings off. So I got a 40-foot gooseneck trailer and on a fifth wheel, and overall length is at 50 foot. And I want to be able to pull that wing and trailer inside the building for secure storage overnight, rather than leave it out on the street in front. There's no maintenance that's going to be done in the hangar. It's a personal storage building. But I just want to have the ability to get the customer's wing off the street so it's not exposed. We've been having cars broken into in the neighborhood, catalytic converters stolen. So I'm at about 50-foot length on the truck and trailer. And again, I just want to be able to pull in overnight, next morning be able to pull out and take the wing to the repair facility.
Is there a need for the height variance? Is the truck gonna need, I see it looks like you have a 14-foot sidewall on your
Yes.
proposed.
Yes, the core variance I'm seeking is the square footage. The height came in, I thought, I was told I could add it to the variance. I didn't realize it was a second variance until after I submitted the application. The height was just, I wanted a 412 pitch for a better appeal in the neighborhood, better look. But it's the square footage I'm after. I came up, used everything I could. I'm at like 48 square foot short. It's close. It's not tremendously larger than what's needed, but just a little bit. And again, I didn't want to leave the aircraft wing out on the street on a trailer overnight exposed. I just want to be able to have the safety and security of my own building.
Is there any reason it couldn't be 40 by 52, which wouldn't that not require the variance?
I'm right at, on the truck and trailer is like right at 50 foot, so it'd be pretty tight. 54 would be a comfortable number I could easily get in and out.
And how do you propose, I don't see an additional driveway or anything, how are you proposing to reach this building with that large of a truck and trailer?
Coming off the driveway, driving alongside the property, along the property line to the back.
Just do a big U-turn in the backyard?
Yeah, yep. There's enough room in front of where the building is gonna be.
There's more power too if you're gonna back a 54-foot
I know.
bad boy past that house,
Right.
so. Okay.
And this is, like I say, this is only gonna be 4 or 5 times a year if right around that. It's not every day, or nothing's gonna be sitting outside.
Looking at the aerial, that's quite wooded right there with some attractive trees. How much of the wood are you gonna take down to put the pole barn?
I've already cleared it. I took 200 trees down, but that's another reason for the 412 pitch. They're messy trees. My next door neighbor has a pole barn, and he's got a 312 pitch, and there's twigs and leaves and stuff on the roof all the time. So I thought a little steeper pitch and appearance. That's why I was going for the height. But the square footage is what I'm really after.
Any questions from the board for the petitioner?
This is Bob Hawley. Presently, do you park the trailer and the tractor alongside the house? Is that where you park it now?
No, I do not. I don't own the trailer anymore. I used to. A good friend of mine owns it. I have exclusive use of it. And the trailer is kept at his business, which is unsecured. That's why I don't want to have it leave my possession when I have a customer's wing on the trailer.
What type of utilities will you have back there in that building?
Electricity,
Just electricity?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
This is DJ Tavernier. Is the trailer, that size of trailer, the only trailer that will fit?
Yes, I built this trailer. I used to own it, and it's a aircraft recovery trailer, so it's low. It has a lot of tie-down points, and there's slings on it for carrying a wing, supporting a lightweight aircraft wing. So it's kind of a special use trailer. It's not just like I can go out and get a shorter trailer. I already have access to one and for my needs. So, like I say, I'm just within a few square feet of what I actually need and lengthwise. And when this truck and trailer are in the building, my personal items have to be pushed off to the side. So the 40-foot width would be, I could go to 39-foot width, but, and not have to seek a variance, but 40 is standard, and 40 by 54 would be just perfect for me.
Brian, do you have a comment?
I was just listening that he just said he could go down, a little bit in the width and still be accommodated within the ordinance. And that seems like a perfect solution to not require the ordinance.
Okay.
Joe, this is Bob Hawley. Do we have any letters from any of the neighbors?
Not that I'm aware of. I have nothing here that we were given to by staff previous to that. There is a considerable amount of people in the audience here and on the Zoom call, Bob, so there might be somebody that wants to speak during the public comment, though, so we'll see.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner?
This is Donnie. It may seem like a silly question, but is it not feasible to get like an off-site storage unit? I mean,
Offsite?
yeah.
Well, that's 50 foot in length, and, it'd be out of my possession. I just wanted the safety and security of my own property. Most of the aircraft that I work on are old, from the 60s and 70s, Cessnas and Pipers, and I just feel more, when it's in my possession, I feel more secure having it on my own property. Again, it's just overnight or over a weekend until I can get it to Kendallville for repair.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
With that, the public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? Nobody in-house. How about on Zoom?
Joe Martin.
Okay.
Joe Martin.
Mr. Martin, if you would, can he unmute himself?
Yeah.
If you would unmute yourself, we see your hand is raised. You have questions or would like to speak into this petition?
He seems to be unmuted.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is unmuted. Mr. Martin, Mr. Joe Martin, did you have a comment you'd like to make on this or have questions? While we wait for Mr. Martin, Brandy, after last month.
Says his mic isn't working.
Oh. Yep, you can type it. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Martin. I appreciate your information. He has written that he lives, it looks like across the street at 10840 Pewamo Drive, and he is in favor of this addition. So that's a neighbor. Anyone else having questions about or would like to speak in favor of this petition? Would anyone like to speak in opposition to this petition? Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. Any additional comments, questions from the board, or I will entertain a motion?
Just to flag you guys, Mr. Martin added a statement after his in favor saying that it wasn't very big.
The addition of the 48 square feet is minimal. Gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Any additional comments, or I'll entertain a motion?
Sid Schaefer, I make a motion that we accept as proposed, just due to the fact that it really isn't that much. You could add a 50 foot onto the house and not have to be here.
Understood. And the height as well, too? You're okay with that?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
okay with the height
All right.
for the leaf purposes.
I'll second.
Bob Hawley seconds that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote, please, Sam?
Ms. Deutscher?
No.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
No.
Mr. Ritzema?
No.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Velleman?
Yes. Based upon the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds these variances granted and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you very much. Can we have the reading of petition number 3, please?
The petition of Matthew and Rebecca Gerard seeking a special use to allow a gun shop/gunsmith shop, property located at 21890 Pine Hollow Lane, German Township, Zoned R, Single Family District, County.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Good afternoon. This is Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission staff. Based on the application provided by the applicant, it is his intent to conduct a small number of firearm transfers at this property with a limited customer base. Everything would be conducted within the dwelling. There'd be no change to the outside appearance or signage on the property. And of course, there would be no firearm discharge at the property. The applicant is simultaneously pursuing a federal firearm license with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. I can personally attest to this through my interactions with the ATF. The zoning ordinance does provide that there are 3 specific development standards which apply to gun sales or gunsmithing at a property that is zoned R single family. These are that it must not be within 200 feet of any K through 12 school, any child care center, or child care ministry. In this case, the site does meet these requirements. There's nothing within 200 feet other than single-family homes. And based on the records that we have on hand, none of those single-family homes have applied with the state in the past 3 years to have a home-based child care business. In addition to these 3 development standards in the zoning ordinance, there are 4 criteria found in state law that the board is to consider when making a positive or negative recommendation to the county council. They are that the special use will not be injurious to public health, safety, comfort, community moral standards, convenience, or general welfare, that the special use will not injure or adversely affect the use and value of the adjacent area, that is consistent with the character of the district in which it is located, and that it is compatible with the comprehensive plan. Speaking strictly from a land use perspective, staff believes that extremely limited gun sales, as with other limited retail activity, could be conducted at this site in a manner that is harmonious with the residential neighborhood and without negative impact on surrounding properties. As such, we do recommend that this be sent with a favorable recommendation, but only based on a set of very stringent written commitments by which the owner would have to abide in conducting this business. The first being that there shall be no outside storage associated with the business. The second being that there shall be no change in appearance of the dwelling or premises, and that there'll be no sign or display other than what is permitted in the residential district in the sign ordinance. Third, that all activities related to the home occupations shall be conducted within this dwelling. Fourth, that there'll be no commercial or industrial grade equipment installed, i.e. equipment which is not routinely marketed to consumers. 5, the property owner shall have no employees related to the business. 6, deliveries and outgoing shipments related to the home occupation shall not be transported on vehicles larger than those customarily used for delivery to a residence. 7, that the business shall serve no more than 1 on-premise customer at a time. And the 8th being that services related to the special use shall not be advertised to the general public using the address associated with this property. Many of these come from our home occupation section in the zoning ordinance, and we generally believe that, as with any other goods that are sold on a residential property, if they are restricted to this level, they can be conducted in a manner that does not interfere with the quiet enjoyment of the residential neighborhood. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The petitioner was aware of these previous to this meeting, correct or not correct?
Not entirely. It generally fits with what he indicated as his intent on the application, so I don't think he's really going to object.
Right, I mean, this is no different. We've done this several times, and these are the commitments that are always put in. I just want to make sure that he was aware of
Correct.
what's going on. Okay. Any questions for staff?
Yeah, Sean, this is Christine Deutscher. So how do we enforce that the owner abides by these written commitments?
Generally, it would have to be complaint-based. I'm sure if this is granted, the neighborhood's going to be extremely vigilant in this case. And if there's any violation, the owner will be stripped of this special use.
Okay, thank you.
And just a reminder to the board, this is a special use, so we are forwarding this to the council with either a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation. So if we do make a motion, that's what we'll be doing. So ultimately, this is not our decision, it's the council's decision. We're just forwarding it on with our recommendation. Everyone understand? Good?
Yes.
All right.
I'd say there's two parts of that that you'll have a hard time with.
Yeah, we'll see.
Sean, I got one question, Sean.
Yeah.
You said that there's no change to the property or to the house. That doesn't involve them wanting to update the house or anything?
Not at all. It's a change in appearance that would suggest that there's anything other than a residential use going on the property.
And I noticed when they put their only one person at a time, it's like, a lot of times guys go with another guy to go to a gunsmith. So you'd actually have two people there.
Well,
But there may only be one of them a customer.
Depends on what you,
Described as a
depends, yeah, it
customer.
depends on how you associate that with customer. If you have one buyer, that's a different thing than one buyer and nobody. So-
Right, and then you got the commercial equipment, most gunsmiths need lathes, which I would class as commercial.
Need what?
A lathe?
Oh, a lathe?
That's very well true. I think the petitioner in this case is mainly interested in sales, so we'll see if he has any issues abiding by any of these, and then we can go from there.
Yep, okay, well, we'll hear what the petitioner has to say. Is the petitioner on the line or in person?
Yes, sir. I am here via Zoom.
Thank you. Your name and address for the record, please.
Matthew Gerard, 21890 Pine Hollow Lane, South Bend, Indiana, 46628.
Is there anything you'd like to add to your petition?
Well, there were some comments made about the having more than one person there at a time. I have very, I don't want to say it would never happen that there would be one buyer like you suggested and a friend that come over, but I think that it would be very infrequent. I plan on doing this on premise with people that I trust in my home with my children. So I'm not going to be advertising online for people to come to my house. I mean, ultimately, my goal would be to have a web-based business where I could sell things online. And to set up with distributors, you do need to have an FFL for that, which is the federal firearms license. And the federal firearms license, the ATF requires that I have the special use for my business doings. But I wouldn't have any problem with doing any of or standing by any of the recommendations here that Mr. Klein proposed.
This is Bob Hawley. What is your experience and knowledge about guns?
I'm pretty knowledgeable with firearms. I don't do any gunsmithing, however.
Is it, for staff question, is it written gun shop gunsmithing because that's the way the ordinance is written, so that's why we have to word it that way?
Correct.
Correct.
It's one
Sorry.
use.
No, that's not a problem. So that would be my question is, so with your FFL, you're required to get that to be able to buy and resell guns from wholesalers, either friends or online like you want to. Is what extent would you have of service or anything like that after the fact for those sales?
Service such as?
If somebody had a problem, they brought it back to you, what would you have available to try and help them with if they have a problem with their firearm? Any type of tooling?
As far as just disassembling and maybe locating a problem, I would be fine doing that, but I wouldn't be milling or lathing anything in my house.
So I'm familiar with a gun shop on US 20 that advertises like adding all these different sights and different accessories to every firearm they sell. Is that something you would be
Okay.
involved in?
Possibly, doing optics and things like that, but those are non-regulated items by the ATF. And someone wouldn't actually have to come to my house for that.
Gotcha, okay.
This is Bob Hawley again. My question is, do you have another job or is this your primary income?
Yes, sir. I'm a full-time firefighter for the city of Elkhart.
Okay. Could you elaborate? I'm not against guns. I don't know that much about them, but I did do a little investigating. I know you can buy guns at a lot of different facilities. And I just wonder, why do you want to do this?
It's a passion thing of mine. It was just a hobby. I've been around guns for years, and there's definitely a demand right now. I saw a market opportunity, and if I can advance on it and make a little bit of money, that would be outstanding.
So what you would be doing, hopefully would generate some income or additional income for, and you're competing with the different, well, I checked into, there's a couple up in Niles, in fact, Rural King. You go in there and they got all kinds of guns. And then you got the place on Grape Road and one on Indiana Avenue that's been around for 100 years. You're competing with these companies? Is that what, am I correct in saying that?
Sir, I don't think that I would put much of a dent in their annual sales with the amount of volume that I intend to do. One thing though about Rural King, you mentioned being in Niles, that's across the state line. So if you're an Indiana resident, you cannot buy a firearm there and take it home with you.
Yeah, I know that. I'm aware
Okay.
of that. And
So,
by the way,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for your occupation as a firefighter.
Oh, thank you, sir. It's my honor.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for the petitioner from the board?
So the question or the stipulation of only having one person or one customer there, will you be doing any transfers where you would have a purchaser and a seller at the same time?
That could be a possibility, yes.
So would you want to potentially amend no more than one to no more than two? I mean,
I don't think it would affect that because the condition is specifically serve no more than one customer. And if he's facilitating that,
there's one customer and one seller, so it's, okay, understood.
Okay, all right.
So that still meets the letter of the law, I guess, or the letter of these commitments. So, okay, thank you, Brandy. Okay.
Mr. Gerard, this is Christine Deutscher. So it's stated that you expect to do a small number of firearm exchanges. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Maybe give us a rough number per week, per month, or let's say your business really takes off and you've got tons of customers. When is it time to move your business out of your home? I just want a better idea of that, please.
Yes, ma'am. I would say no more than 1 to 2 a week. And if things start if I start generating some traction and getting more business, then yeah, it would be time to move the business out of my home and transfer my FFL to a different premise for which to do the paperwork. And generally, all I'm asking for here is to be able to use my laptop in my basement in a less than 100 square foot area to do transfers, do background checks with the FBI through the NICS, and make sure that people that are wanting to purchase guns from me, again, they're going to be friends and family members that I trust in my home, are not prohibited from owning such items.
Any other questions from the board?
Joe, from staff's perspective, I'd just like to add, I know that there are probably folks here to speak in or to speak about the petition and on Zoom. But because we were flooded with a lot of emails and calls, I just want to note for the record what we received, if that's all right.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so we did receive 3 letters that were opposed prior to the hearing from Ralph and Anne Marie Szmanski, Sterling and Candy Wiener, and Lucille Ostrowski. We also had a call from an attorney representing a neighbor asking for clarification on the request. And then I anticipate we'll have folks here today and on Zoom speaking.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. With that, the public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition, please step forward.
Do you want to read the comments first? It starts here.
Can I
Or
wait till we
after.
get to the
Yep.
other side of the portion, since that's most of the comments?
Yes.
There is actually one question. Ben Bannock stated on the chat that there is a preschool 400 feet from the driveway to driveway. I would defer to staff and/or council on this, but I would assume since we did a search for licensed childcare facilities, which is what the requirement is, this is not a licensed facility? Or we don't know?
It's a 200-foot radius.
Oh, 200-foot
so-
radius, okay. Then 400 feet, unfortunately, does not meet that standard, so. Okay. Very good. Okay.
There appears to be at least one person in the chat who says they are in
Yeah.
favor.
Eddie Williams, 22150 Pine Hollow Lane. I am in favor of this.
Yep, I see this, yep. Eddie Williams is in favor.
And there's another one.
It looks like Sean Stanley, who lives at 22038 Pine Hollow, is also in favor of this petition.
Or at least doesn't have a problem with it.
Or yeah, doesn't have a problem with it. Okay. And then
Holly says I live next to Matt and I am in favor of this.
Holly lives next door.
Holly, could you provide further identifying information, first and last name and your address, please?
All right. While we're waiting on Holly, I will go to people that have their hands raised.
Thank
Sorry.
you. Apparently Holly's name is Joseph.
Thank you, Joseph, 21916 Pine Hollow Lane. Robert Guthrie, you have your hand raised. Do you have any questions about or would like to speak in favor of this petition?
I'm speaking in favor of it. I live a 12-minute walk and routinely walk past this property and have no problems whatsoever.
What is your address specifically, sir?
51321 G Court.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Mary and Jeff Haas, you also have your hand raised. Would you please unmute yourself?
Yes.
And, yes, thank
Yes. Mary and Jeff Haas, 21732 Joy Court, South Bend, 46628. We are strongly against this petition. It seems to me that the neighbors will be left enforcing it, and it appears that if the business grows, it would be moved to a commercial area anyway. I suggest this be rejected for the neighborhood and moved to a commercial establishment to begin with.
you. Okay. Thank you for your input.
Robert Pinter. I am Robert Pinter across the street from Matt. I am in favor.
Very good. Mr. Sharon, you have your hand raised. Would you unmute yourself and have any questions or comments?
Yes, Dave Sharon, Fire Marshal with Clay Fire, 18355 Otten Road, South Bend. I have two questions, actually. Is going to be any large amounts of ammunition and reloading supplies involved? And if so, how are they going to be stored?
Okay. We will bring the petitioner back after the public portion to answer that for you. So large ammo or reloading supplies and how stored. Okay. Is that it, sir?
That is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sharon. Mr. McFarland, Michael McFarland, you have your hand raised. Do you have any questions or comments on this petition?
Yes, my name is Michael McFarland. I live at 21953 Pine Hollow Lane. when we say guns, what kind of guns? And then I, you know, like the, what Mr. Sharon said about the ammunition. But what kind of guns, and does it include any AK-47s or any automatic weapons? Is it handguns? Is it a rifle? What are we looking at?
Okay. After the public portion, the petitioner will be allowed to come back and answer that question for you. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? Okay, so we have a couple of questions. It looks like, does the variance stay with the house after the current residents leave? Since it's a special use, that still would stay with it follows the address, correct?
Special uses stay with the property.
So yes, for Mr. Greg V, yes, a special use, if granted by the council, would stay with the house itself. It would not, if the petitioner moved, it would not follow him.
However, as Brandy clarified for me prior to the hearing, if there were commitments assigned to the petition, it would be subject to those, and of any violation would basically give us the opportunity to rescind the special use.
Right.
Is that correct, Brandy?
The county council would
County
have
council.
to do it. And there's, other ways to enforce the commitments besides that, but I believe they would have the authority to do that.
And I also want to note that just having a special use from the county would not necessarily follow with the next person who bought the property unless the ATF, they also secured a permit that way as well.
Good point.
Special use would, but whether or not they could do anything
Good,
with
yeah,
it
that's a
would-
good point.
Right, exactly. I just wanted to clarify that the special use would continue, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the next person who buys it will automatically
Yeah,
get
the next person would still
permission.
have to get a petition for an FFL from the ATF as well, too. So
Correct.
good point, thank you. Does the permit sunset or require renewal? No, when the special use is put into place, it is permanent for that location by that address. Next one, is it transferable, and if so, is it associated with the owner, business, or property? As we answered before, it's associated with the property, but the FFL would have to be reapplied for by whoever buys the property if the petitioner does move, so. And then last one, how many special use permits of this nature are granted annually in St. Joe County? I can't answer that.
So I can't speak to annual. However, after staff reviewed this petition, we did go back through records that we have, and we saw similar cases in single-family homes in 2 residential zones and 1 agricultural zone in, I want to say 2011, 2013, and 2016 or 17.
Yeah, it's not common, but it's not unheard of. It's not, we don't do tons of these, but yes.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
Ben Bannock asked, how do you advertise a gunsmithing business without an address?
Well, as the petitioner stated, it would all be online, so I guess you don't have to worry about that, but he can answer that when he comes back up. So. Okay. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition, please come forward, or I will maybe go through these starting at the top or the bottom, wherever you want me to start, Sam.
Let's go
We'll
to the
do
top.
public portion, or the in-person first. Anyone wish to speak in opposition? Anyone in this facility wishing to speak in opposition to? If you can make your way up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Jackie Vita, 51287 Whitewater Lane, South Bend. This is kind of down the street and around the corner from our house. I'm not in favor of this at all. I just don't understand whether this gets a change in variance to this house, what other variances will come down the line to other houses. Is this opening a Pandora's box to having, let's say, a dog kennel in somebody's backyard? Because you've already given one commercial variance and now we're going to have another. And a daycare, I think, is a pre-K school, and I'm not sure if it's licensed either. I tried looking it up and I couldn't find it anywhere, but maybe I'm not in the right spot. Yes, it's over 200 feet, but it's in direct line to this house. It's just like 3, 4 houses away, and I just don't think it's a good thing to have. It doesn't sound to me as if he can guarantee he can make these commitments with just 2 people and, 1 person in the house. Things are gonna happen. He just says, I don't know, it depends what happens down the line. I don't think that's very credible at this point if he can't decide what he's gonna do or how he's gonna do this. The neighborhood is kinda, some of the people I've talked to, worried about who's coming in and out of the neighborhood. And it's gonna get out that we have a gun salesperson in the house. I'd like to know what type of guns, if somebody asked. I'd like to know how many he's gonna have in the house at any one time. And some of the other questions I had have been asked about types of guns and things like that. But I just think, we might be opening our neighborhood up to other commercial businesses that we may not like if we allow this type of a business to come in. And this is a residential, very safe neighborhood as it is right now, and we like to keep it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to? Please make your way. If there's multiple people, just form a line 6 foot behind, and we can put everyone right in a row, please.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Carolyn Kep, and I live in the neighborhood that is behind this gentleman.
We do need your address, please, ma'am.
21733 Moyer Court.
Okay.
And I am strongly against this. I don't feel that a gun reseller needs to be in the neighborhood. I am very concerned about what type of clientele this is going to attract, whether it be online or in person. Word gets around. We have children in the neighborhood. The neighborhood is very quiet, it's peaceful, and I just feel like if we allow this type of business to come in, once it's in, it's in. We're not going to be able to get rid of it. If he moves and the application is approved, the next person coming in will be able to run a gun shop if it gets approved. So I don't think a gun shop is the best business to have in a residential neighborhood. I just don't think it's the right fit. So I'm against it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Anyone else in this room that would wish to speak against this petition? I can't talk today. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if this applies to me because I sent a letter. So does that?
Yes,
You
if
can
you sent a
still
letter,
speak.
you can still speak during the public comment, yes.
Okay. I am opposed to this variance. I don't think we need a gun shop in our residential area. It's quiet. People walk all the time in the area. We have a lot of children. We have no sidewalks. So the children are in the streets, either roller skating, biking, walking, whatever. And I just feel that it may interfere with our quietness of the neighborhood, with the intention of why we moved there in the first place, that if he wants to do this, he should get a storefront or another place. There are so many openings everywhere, and I just don't think this is the proper place to have a gunsmith shop.
Ma'am, could you please note your name and address?
Sure. Lucille Ostrowski, 21932 East Sandy Hill Lane, South Bend, Indiana. And once this business gets in, like the woman before me said, who's to say that 3, 4, 5, or whatever, other businesses won't ask for a variance? So I am against it.
I'm just asking the question to ask. Does anybody in your neighborhood sell Avon or Pampered Chef or any of those other types of products?
I have no idea.
That's a business that's probably ran out of a house as well, too.
That I can't tell you.
Understood. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your input.
Okay.
Anyone else in the room like to speak up? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Jim Imes. I live at 22016 Sandy Hill Court, about a block away. I'm opposed to this variance. As other people have said, we have a lot of children in the neighborhood, and we're talking guns. You just brought up the point that someone sell Mary Kay or whatever. I mean, okay, Mary Kay is one thing, but we're talking guns here. I'm very uncomfortable with it. We've had instances, in fact, just this last week in Sandy Brook and Sandy Hill, we've got people going through cars in the neighborhood. If people find out there's a gun store in our neighborhood.
Wouldn't that deter them?
Excuse me?
Wouldn't that potentially deter someone breaking
maybe,
into a home?
Maybe not. If people know that there's a house that stores guns, they might think they have a quick opportunity.
Potentially. You brought up another point that several people have asked about, the children. The aspect of children in the neighborhood, why would that affect the ability to have an in-home business?
Because we're talking guns here. Again, that's why I'm opposed. I bought my property with the understanding this is going to be a residential neighborhood, not a business neighborhood.
Okay, so I'll bring up the next point. Have you ever had a Pampered Chef party in your neighborhood where 15 people show up for that and are parked?
Me personally,
no, not you, but in your neighborhood.
No.
But have you ever seen a Pampered Chef or any type of party where there's more than potentially even the 2 people that this gentleman's talking about invited to a party that could be blocking traffic or causing problems with children in the streets?
I can't say that I do, or I don't remember off the top of my head, but I guess the point is I'm strongly opposed to this variance.
Understood, and I appreciate your comments very much so. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Dave McAllister. I live 21858 East Sandy Hill Lane. I live 4 doors down from the proposed location from Matt's house. I support the petition. I support the special use. I'm actually, for those that are curious, the owner of that preschool that's 400 to 500 feet away, and we are in support of the special use. The petitioner has made it clear several times that it's for close family and friends. In my eyes, that's no different than close family and friends coming over for a barbecue or coming over to say hi. So the traffic in the neighborhood, I don't think that'll be interrupted by any means. I think the commercialization is being blown completely out of proportion. I've talked to Matt, he's explained the situation to me. It's a hobby that he's trying to pursue legally through every legal means necessary to stay above the law in order to keep people safe. People with criminal intentions don't go with full intent, letter of the law to do bad things. That's kind of my stance on it. I don't think it's going to disrupt the flow of the neighborhood at all. We're in support of it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your input. Anyone else in the room would like to speak for or against this petition? Okay. Anyone that would like to make a stated comment in opposition to this that may be on Zoom, please raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to start with the comments. Let's see here. I'm not going to read that one because they didn't state their name and address. We will answer the question on advertising. Again, no address, no address. That was in favor.
Whoever's listed as M, if you want your comments registered, you'll need to give your name and address.
We had in favor, no problem. Holly came back as Joseph, that's right. In favor, we already answered that question. We answered that question, we answered that question. That was him commenting. We answered that question. Stephanie Bank at 21995 Sandy Hill Court in South Bend opposes this petition. Moving down, no
He
comment.
also said about Avon and Pampered Chef don't require permits. That was the same lady.
Oh, so she had a question. No, and that, I guess that's kind of my point is those, a few people made a comment of home-based businesses. Those are also home-based businesses that don't require a special permit. This gentleman could start selling guns out of his basement, not legally, if he did not get these permits and variances or special uses. So he is going and doing the right thing was my point on that. Let's see here. No, can't say anything about that. Can't say anything about that. Can't say anything about that.
Joe, I'd just like to clarify something about home occupations.
Yeah.
So there's been a number of questions about, we as staff have said Tupperware, but Mary Kay or Avon or whatever. And home occupations are permitted in a residential district, subject to certain development standards. So what we've done, again, just for everyone's reference, in the recommended commitments is apply the home occupation standards to the request.
So if somebody really wanted, I guess, so I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So if my wife wanted to be a pampered chef and do it appropriately, she would be okay. Wouldn't require special use because it's not a gunsmith store, but would have the same style of commitments required if she was selling that type of product?
Correct.
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you.
Ben Bannock would like the opportunity to speak.
Okay. Mr. Bannock, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I am stating for the record, Ben Bannock, 21995 Sandy Hill Court, and I am opposed to the special use request for many of the same reasons as before. Primarily, we bought our home in this neighborhood because the area is zoned for residential use. And while I do not disagree that many people do their businesses, COVID business, whatever, from out of their house. This is obviously a different situation. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here right now discussing it. I trust Matt with what he has explained as his initial business plan, which, as it was relayed to us, was going to be just simply operating an e-commerce site. But then he kind of opened the door with, I'd like to do some gunsmithing. He had, as somebody pointed out earlier, a lot of possibilities with this business, which is natural. As he grows his business, as his business is successful, there are going to be possibilities. And one of the concerns and one of the reasons why I'm against this is that there is no accountability, is what I heard somebody on the board say earlier, that there's really no governing of this other than the neighbors to call in and complain. This permit sticks with this property indefinitely and forever, which permanently changes the landscape of this residential neighborhood. And one final question, I'm sorry I didn't have the opportunity or the thought during the questioning part, but so with this 200-foot rule, what if somebody moves in next door to the Gerards and they want to open a daycare center? Does that family lose their opportunity at a daycare center because there is now a classified gunsmithing gun shop permit at the neighboring house?
That is a question for staff that we'll have to we'll answer that after the public portion, Mr. Bannock.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your input. Okay, Mr. Bannock just talked. Mr. Greg Vanderhagen at 51083 Pine Hollow Lane. I am a 26-year resident of Pine Hollow and reject this proposal, not against guns, just don't see it as an appropriate place for this business. Mr. Stanley made another comment of non-issue on traffic. And then we have, so that bottom one, Randy, is that okay since they were given permission?
You can take the Mary person, but you would have to disregard the other people because we don't have them
per se.
verification.
So, and she sent in a letter, I believe, didn't she? No, that was a different, no, that was Ostrowski, sorry. A different ski at the end. I'm going to butcher this, sorry, Mary. Mary Sheskowski at 23193 Arbor Point Drive, South Bend, 46628. I am in favor of this. And that is what she states. Unfortunately, we cannot take the other one because they are not stating it themselves, Mary. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to or have questions about this petition?
There was a comment left by someone identified as M.
Oh.
If you want that comment to be counted, you will need to identify yourself with name and address. M.
Yes, if you have your username is M, please give us your name and address for the record, otherwise your thoughts will not be heard, unfortunately. I was gonna say slightly earlier, Brandy, with the difficulty we had last month of the Zoom, waiting for people and all that, is there anything in process of how long we're legally required to wait for people when that happens yet? Or we get,
Well, there hasn't been any guidance yet.
there's been no guidance, so their 5 minutes basically starts when they raise their hand, and that's just what we're gonna go with then?
Well, no, last time I believe we did it as they got to make an attempt all the way until the end of the public comment period, and we didn't have a problem at that point.
Okay.
Because the people that were having an issue submitted it.
Got it, okay.
So we haven't had to test it yet, but that would not be how I would start counting. I would, if we got through everyone else and called them again, I'd call them 3 times and then wait the 5 minutes, but so far we haven't had that.
Okay, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to or have questions about this petition? All right, seeing none, the public portion is now closed. Mr. Gerard, we had several questions that came up that I would like to ask you about. The first one was, how large of an ammo and/or reloading supplies will you have on site, and how will it be stored?
I hand load myself personally for personal use. So there would be no more than what I use on a personal basis. I'm applying for my Class 1 FFL, which is the essentially the gun dealer and gunsmith license. A Class 7 is what would be required to manufacture ammunition and firearms, which I will not be doing.
Oh, understood, I didn't realize that. So,
And they're stored in my gun safe.
and you won't be, so you'll be loading for your own personal use, but you will not be reselling ammo per se, is that what you're saying?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, I will not be selling ammunition,
And
not
you said-
reloaded stuff at least.
Okay.
And I don't really have any intention of selling brand new stuff
Okay. And how is it being stored?
in my fireproof gun safe.
How many guns would you ever have on the premises, and what type would they be?
It depends on what someone wanted. I would not be stocking guns at the premises. I'm not gonna have a showroom where people can come and browse a selection of firearms in my house. If somebody were to want to order something, say a friend of mine, my next door neighbor Joe wants to order a handgun from Rural King in Niles. He could buy it there. Their FFL could ship it to me because I would be a licensed FFL through the ATF, and I could do the transfer for him.
Okay. And
So there will be no stocking of guns.
And I think I know the answer to this question, but so the type of guns, will there be any automatic weapons sold through your facility?
No, there will be no NFA items.
Okay. Did I get all the questions that were answered? I think I wrote them all down. Storage, type of guns, how many guns, large ammo, reloading supplies, how it was gonna be stored.
Someone was questioning about the commitment to only having one customer on site, and I have no problem with that. I'd also like to make note that people keep bringing up children. I have 5 children, 2 of which are under the age of 5 years old, and 1 that goes to the preschool down the street from my house. I certainly will not exceed the amount of traffic coming into our neighborhood that Amazon brings in, or UPS or FedEx. So to continually bring up the safety of the children roller skating or riding their bikes, my kids roller skate and ride their bikes in that neighborhood also. And I'm going to generate maybe 1, 2 max people into the neighborhood a week. I have my mother over for dinner that frequently. So I think that the increased traffic is a moot point.
Any other questions for the petitioner from the board? Anything from staff? Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the information. I think you've answered everything that I wrote down that was new information that we needed, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, any additional questions, comments, or I will entertain a motion for a, to send it forward to the county council?
County Council.
With
County
either
council.
favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation.
Make a motion for in favor.
We have a motion.
I couldn't hear the motion.
The motion was to send the special use request to the council with a favorable recommendation.
I thought he said unfavorable.
No, in favor.
Yeah.
Sorry. I forgot I gotta be right here.
Yeah, be right on the mic.
What did it, repeat that, please, Joe.
DJ put in a motion to approve, or not approve, to send the special use to the county council with a favorable recommendation. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Christine Deutscher. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to send this special use request to the county council with a favorable recommendation. Sam, would you call for the vote, please?
Could staff just ask for clarification, DJ? Were you intending to include the recommendation subject to the written commitments proposed by staff?
Yes, how Sean had proposed it to us. Yes, I'm in favor of how it was proposed.
With the written commitments,
With the
yes.
written
So that has
commitments.
to be stated in there, so.
Christine, is that what you intended to second?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second for a favorable recommendation. Sam, would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Ritzema?
Not in favor.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
No.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Bellman?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, this special use will be forwarded to the county council with a favorable recommendation. Remember, they have the final say on it. We just give them a recommendation, the county council can decide what they want to do any way they look at it. Thank you all for your time. Good input.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have the reading of petition number, 4, please.
The petition of
Number 4.
Michael Richards Jr. seeking the following variances. 1, from section 154.107C2 to allow a 6-foot side yard setback where 8 feet is required. And 2, from section 154.070C1A2 to allow a 6-foot rear yard setback where 8 feet is required for an accessory structure, shed, property located at 57250 Allen Road, Warren Township, Zoned R, Single Family District, County.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Michael Richards, and my wife Helen Richards is with me. We live at 57250 Allen Road. I'm retired and have worked at Burkhardt Advertising for 10 years. And 10 years as a union bricklayer, 10 years at Honeywell, 8 years with the South Bend School Corporation as a bus driver. My wife has been in the healthcare and is a nurse practitioner. In 2018, we began to build a 16 by 16 shed because our family became larger and needed more space. Had 6 grandchildren between 2016 and 2018. I did not get a permit because I was building a storage shed that did not have a concrete floor, and I thought I was far enough over from the property lines to utilize the space in our backyard for our 9 grandchildren. During the 5 months of construction, had family and our neighbors helped with the shed. We have $6,000 in material invested in this shed. It was built very well. Since the letter of notice of hearing, have had neighbors all around us come over and give us their support and wished us well and could not believe that this is happening over 2 foot and thought it was very unfair for us to have to move it over a little distance. All but one neighbor that I know of at 57295 Allen Road that lives 2 houses down on the west side of Allen that never really cared for us since I moved in. I have 3 written letters from neighbors that are property owners around our shed next to my property. A, Alfredo Arendez at 57198 Allen Road, located on the north side of the shed. B, Oscar Rogers at 57181 Poppy Road to the east side of our shed, and Ryan Witt on the west side, right across the street. They all said it was no problem whatsoever that the shed was there. It helped us build it. I am deeply sorry that I did not get a permit. It's caused me a lot of stress and worry. It's cost me a back surgery in 2018, and it will be very difficult for me to move the shed because of my physical condition. Have had 3 back surgeries since the construction of the shed. It has been there for 3 years, and now it's an issue, and so sorry for that. If I could go back to that day in April 2018, I definitely would have gotten a permit and have learned a valuable lesson. My wife and I are hardworking, law-abiding citizens and vote. We certainly did not mean for all this to happen, and once again, so sorry. We hope that the board will grant us our variance over 2 foot, please. I have the 3 letters here that were written from the neighbors that I just mentioned. Ryan Witt, residing at 57215 Allen Road, South Bend in 46619, to hereby not protest the existing structure in question, owned by Michael Richards and located at 57250 Allen Road.
We'll enter those in the public portion, sir, so we can, I don't know if you want to leave them there, or if, I don't know if somebody would mind grabbing it.
I'm sorry?
You can leave those right there, and we'll enter those in the public portion when we get to it.
Okay.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you for your time. Staff, I skipped you, sorry.
No problem. So just to expand on what Mr. Richards said, we became aware of it because the building department red tagged it. And like he said previously, it was built without a permit. He made reference to it not being on a concrete base. The actual threshold for pulling a building permit is 120 square feet. This exceeds it. It was built with a 6-foot setback where 8 feet is required. I am truly sympathetic to Mr. Richards' situation, and I agree it's a nice looking shed. The reason why staff is recommending denial is that, you know, we're looking at the state code criteria. If it's going to be harmful to the public health, safety, welfare, morals, if it's going to adversely impact the surrounding neighborhood, those 2 things are, you know, questionable, right? The rub comes down to the 3rd criteria. Strict application to the terms of this chapter would result in a practical difficulty. There really isn't one, as you can see in the site plan. Yep, thanks, Sean. There is sufficient space in that, I think, northeast corner, correct?
Yes,
Yep,
the
thanks.
northeast corner.
Northeast corner to meet the standards of the zoning ordinance. So that's where our recommendation is coming from. Thank you. Oh, and then in addition to the folks that Mr. Richards mentioned, we had 1 letter in support from Zarnecki, Patricia, and 1 opposed from Saberniak. I probably botched those and apologize.
I'm sure I will as well. Okay. Any questions for the petitioner from the board?
I have a question for staff.
Yes.
This is Christine Deutscher. Is there a way that we could approve with like a stipulation that he needs to remove the structure? You know, if he ever sells? Or is that sort of, I don't know, too complicated?
If you grant the variance runs with the land, so whether he would remove the structure or not, somebody else would be able to build there.
I see, okay.
Correct.
Bob Hawley, 2 questions. Does the shed have a wood flooring, and also is there any electricity or anything to the shed?
No, sir, there is no electricity to the shed, and there is a wood floor in it.
Thank you.
How was the base constructed? Is it on runners, or is it just sitting on the ground?
What I did is I put 4x4s into the ground and then screwed floor joists to the 4x4s. That's how the floor is,
So the 4x4s are cemented in the ground?
yes.
Not coming out very
That's
easily,
the
is
hard
it now?
part to move it.
You do construction, so that's why we have you here. All right. Any other questions for the petitioner? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone wishing to speak, with that, the public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? Anyone wishing, oh, wait. So, as staff did say, we do have a letter, like you said, from Sardnecki. Ryan Witt at 57215 Allen Road. Oscar Royers at 57181 Poppy Road. And Alfredo Hernandez at 57198 Allen Road, all speaking in favor of and supporting this petition.
Zaberniak was opposed.
I'm not there yet.
Oh, sorry. I thought that you said.
That's okay.
I got a question about those. Not that like this is a court hearing or anything, but is there a way, actual way to verify those? I mean, in fairness.
No. I mean, we're taking it that they have signed their names. Someone has signed their names to this, attesting as who they are. But I don't think we go and ask them if they actually did send this letter. That's a good question. I don't know that there's a way. Brandy, is there a way to verify that?
I mean, if they were to come themselves and say this person brought letters on my behalf and it's not me, I suppose that would do it, but, I
So
don't
a
know.
self-policing type of opportunity there.
Okay.
And I mean, I guess at some point, if, you know, it's on the public record, is their names and addresses, and
It
it goes in
is.
the minutes, and if they were to observe it at some point and say, well, I didn't say that, then we would find out later.
Right. Okay. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to, please come forward. There is a letter from Mark and Becky Saberniak at 57295 Allen Road. They do not agree that a variance should be granted because of disregard of the building code. And same thing, building code violation. So again, Mark and Becky Saberniak. Anyone on Zoom wishing to speak in opposition or in favor of or have questions about this petition? Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. Is there additional comments, questions from the board, or I'll entertain a motion?
I got a question.
Bob Holly, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the petition at 57250 Allen Road as presented.
Okay, hold that thought 1 second, Bob. Sydney had a question.
He said it took, I believe, 5 months to build this. If all the people were opposed, why didn't they turn him in? Because he didn't have a permit.
Well, I don't know about
They
all the
saw
people
it.
being opposed, the
Yeah, there's only
people he
one
said
opposition.
helped him.
Yeah, I mean, but they were seeing it, I would have thought.
Good question.
Maybe that's the reason why they got red tagged.
Possibly. So,
Yeah, I mean, I see what goes on in my neighborhood.
I do too. There's a fence I don't like, so yes.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Holly, you have made a motion to approve the variance as requested, correct?
Yes.
Is there a second?
This is DJ Tavernier, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Sam, would you call for the vote, please?
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzema?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Velleman?
Yes. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variance granted and will issue and find the facts. And just in case there is anyone on here remonstrating against the not getting permits, it is triple, if I'm not correct, triple fees if you do not get a permit before doing any type of construction that you have to pay. So there is other penalties, I guess, for not doing the right thing to begin with. So, just my 2 cents. All right. We have the reading of petition number 5, please.
The petition of Ikechukwu and Chantel Andrews seeking the following variance from section 154.070C1D1 to allow a 6-foot-high privacy fence to be located in a minimum front yard along Cleveland Road where a maximum height of 3 feet is allowed. Property located at 52985 Ash Road, Harris Township, Zoned R, Single Family District, County.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is, staff recommends approval of this variance. The use of this property has been constricted because there was a taking of property for the purpose of creating right-of-way for the roundabout. So that's why it's kind of on the angle that it's on. And so that taking of right-of-way does constitute a practical difficulty for use of this property. In addition, I wanted to note that a particular section of the zoning ordinance does allow the property to have a privacy fence 6 foot high along Cleveland Road because it counts as a subdivision perimeter street. However, the way this exception is written, the fence could only be 3 feet high along the eastern and western edges within the minimum front yard. So 6 foot along Cleveland, 3 foot until you get past the front yard, and then it goes back up to 6 feet, if that makes sense.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't make sense.
Gotcha. And so in staff's review of the whole situation, we've come to a favorable recommendation due to the criteria of state law, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And you can see in the slide that they're not even proposing to put it on the right-of-way line anyways, and if you look at the picture of the property, it's going to be on the property side, the inside of where the tree line is. If we could go back to from the pictures of on the ground, the street view. Yeah, so it would be inside the tree line area, if I am catching it correctly, and then the previous slide, or the other direction. There you go. So you can see the road is coming out of the roundabout right there, and where the fence would be on the right side of where the tree line is. And so, you know, it's doubtful that it would cause any kind of traffic issue.
Makes sense. Any questions for staff from the board? All right, is the petitioner in house or on Zoom and would like to add to their petition?
Hi, it's Chantel Andrews of 52985 Ash Road. He described it fairly well. We just moved into the house and purchased it, and we're just kind of wanting to shield our backyard from the busyness of Cleveland Road, basically. And just the way the house is positioned, it does require the variance.
Okay. You almost have 2 front yards.
Basically, yeah.
Understood. Okay.
Bob Hawley, I might have missed this, but what type of fencing are we going to have there? Is it going to be chain link, or is it going to be a solid fence?
It would be a solid vinyl fence.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions for this board for the petitioner? All right. Thank you, ma'am. The public
Thank
portion
you.
is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition?
There's a number that has their hand up.
Oh, well, they went away.
They hung
Okay.
up.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition, please come forward and raise your hand. Seeing and hearing none, the public portion is now closed. Any additional comments, questions, or I will entertain a motion.
Bob Hawley, I'll make a motion to approve the request at 52-985 Ash Road as presented.
Donnie Ritzma, I'll second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Sam, would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzema?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Velleman?
Yes. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variance granted and will issue written findings of facts. Thank you for your time, Ms. Andrews.
Thank you so much.
And we have the reading of petition number 6, please.
The petition of Chad Hostetler and Jennifer Santi Hostetler seeking the following variances. One, from section 154.106C2A1 to allow an 8-foot side yard setback where 20 feet is required for a proposed chicken coop. And two, from section 154.106C2A1 to allow the chicken coop to be located 0 feet from the nearest residential dwelling where a minimum of 20 feet is required. Property located at 17340 Micker Lane Street, Clay Township, Zoned R, Single Family District, County.
That's right.
Okay, there's a little bit of complexity to this case. I'm going to flip to first show, this is the map of the floodplain. Along the back of this property is Judy Creek, and the floodplain is marked with the hash marks for the floodway, but it is still considered the FEMA flood zone AE beyond that for the rest of the property. And because of the existence of this floodway, there's regulation against it being allowed in the backyard. It's part of the ordinance. And so if it's anywhere within 75 feet of the top of the bank of the creek, then it would still be within the range of what the drainage board would have to review. So if the end result of today, a permission was allowed for variance, then, and the intention is to put the chicken coop within 75 feet, then they would still need to get permission from the drainage board. So that's the second step, completely separate from what we're working on right here. But just for the question of a variance for the setbacks, the proposed use is, they gave a couple of options on either the eastern side or the western side, where that they would propose that either side, whatever works best for the board after their deliberations, they would be willing to do, and that they are in support of putting up appropriate fencing and landscaping to screen it from the neighbors. Ordinarily, a chicken coop would need to be 20 feet away from a side property line and 20 feet away from a residential dwelling, including the house on the property. And there's only 20 feet between the side yard and the house. So there'd need to have been at least 40 feet for the setbacks, plus an extra about 4 feet for the chicken coop, which does not exist here. And because it doesn't exist, staff recommendation is to allow approval because there is a practical difficulty in getting this property due to the backyard having Judy Creek and due to the floodway that's there. And in the submittal, there's also a manure management plan was submitted, and that will have to go to the Judy Creek. It'll have to be reviewed by the drainage board. So this question is really, we're focusing in on just the setbacks due to how close it would be to the neighbor's side yard and allowing it to be at 0 feet or so from the house on site, or perhaps 8 feet away. So the notice legal ad was written with a bit of space to give and take. So if it were decided to be on the eastern side or the western side, that flexibility is there. But at minimum, it does need to be at least 8 feet away from the side lot line. And so I think I covered a lot of things. I don't know if Abby, you had something else you wanted to add?
Yeah, we can cover this during public input, but we did get some proposed, or a request from a neighbor regarding some proposed commitments related to the request.
Okay. So the way this, because of the floodplain, because of the setbacks and all that, basically the center of their front yard is where they could legally put it.
It's not allowed in the front yard either.
Oh, so they have no legal place to put it.
There's nowhere they could put it.
Wow. Okay.
In terms of a variance being necessary because of property configurations, this is really a good example.
Well, and I guess, I just want to make sure, whether it's a chicken coop or a shed or something else, doesn't matter what the structure is, it's just the variance to the side yard is really the issue, right?
The chicken coop variance is specific to being a chicken coop. It's a particular part of the zoning code that specifically gives requirements for chicken coops.
Okay, so, gotcha. So this is because it is a chicken coop itself.
Now, is the 20-foot from a residence due to health concerns?
I don't know for sure why that was all put in place. We did check to see if there was like a fire hazard reason where the building department would have required it, and the building department does not have a prohibition for safety or any other reason. But I think just in terms of keeping things as pleasant and nice and sanitary and everything, it probably makes the most sense to have some space.
And then I apologize if I mentioned this, but just want to mention, want to note, in case it wasn't, that we are just one sign-off for a chicken permit. We provide planning and zoning clearance, and then that permit application is submitted to the Humane Society, and they are the final sign-off. So they're requesting variances for the zoning related stuff today, and then after they fulfill our requirements via variances or, with the site plan, then everything goes to the Humane Society.
Because chickens are animals too.
I'm sorry,
Bob,
Because chickens are animals too.
may be a stupid question, but I'm assuming there's nothing on the property in the way of a chicken coop right now.
My understanding is that there is one, and I'll let the petitioner explain that. It's in our zoning code, once a variance has been applied for, there's a stay against any enforcement action. And I do not know how the Humane Society handles that. That would be up to them to decide. But the Humane Society is determined by the county to be the arbiter or the responsible party for administering the animal control ordinance. And but for our purposes, I'll just let the petitioner make their own answer.
Thank you, man.
All right. Looks like the petitioner's ready. Would you like anything to add to your petition?
Sure. As far as the chicken coop.
We do need your name and address, please.
Oh, sorry. Jennifer Hostetler, 17340 McGerlin Street. We didn't know that there was an ordinance originally pertaining to chickens. So we did have a chicken coop and a run already established on our property. The Humane Society had come out to check to make sure that we had cleared the way as we were going through the steps to have a variance granted. So moving forward, if we can get this variance granted, they said that once our new coop is set up and in place, that they would come out and check. And after seeing what we had already constructed, they said they'd have no problem passing.
So do you just have a coop, no chickens, or do you have chickens right now?
No, we just have the coop, we have runs around it.
Okay. Got it. And so this is actually for requesting for a second coop then as well too? You have one on one side of the house? Oh.
This is just for one because we didn't know that Jude Creek was technically a drainage easement and that you could not construct or have living animals like that near the creek because it's in a floodplain.
So on the, could you go back to the picture where it was drawn up by showed a run and a run next to the garages?
I think it was just to show two different spots.
So okay, that's why I want to make sure. That's an either or opportunity on that,
so
correct?
that was just showing kind of
Okay.
where we could place it.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, I put in there that we can kind of go any way with it depending on recommendations.
I just saw on the side it said 2 possible chicken coop placements. That's not 2, it's one or
Right,
the other.
yeah, it's one or the other because we weren't sure exactly
Okay.
how this worked.
Understood. Okay. That makes sense now. Just make sure I'm clear in my own head. All right. All right, any questions for the petitioners?
So it's a 20-foot gap.
So yeah, it's 20 foot from the house to each property line, it looks like.
I would like to note that on both sides of the house, there aren't any windows that open. Aside from on the left there, there's one window that does open, but it goes to a storage room. Just in case that was a concern for health and safety coming inside the house.
That's more your concern than anybody else's.
Yeah.
And how big, I mean, I looked at the structure, I really couldn't get a physical, how big is, so this is a prefabricated coop, you're not making it yourself, correct?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah, so it's a Formix plastic coop that it's easy to clean, doesn't allow like bacteria and mold to penetrate like most wood coops do. And it has several locks to keep any sort of predators out. But yes, this is a already made coop.
So you're not building some wood structure that could fall apart, deteriorate over time, it's gonna be this
Correct,
structure
one
that you
actually
show here?
stands up to all weather, yes.
Okay, good. Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Are we, with our recommendation today, are we recommending a side of the house where this chicken coop should be placed? Am I understanding that correctly?
You would have the ability to decide if you wish, or you could say it's granted as presented, which would allow for the setbacks on either side, but you do have the flexibility to grant it for just one side or the other.
So it all depends on how you, if you were to make a motion, how you state it then is what it boils down to. Okay. All right. Thank you both, appreciate your time. With that, the public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? Please come forward or raise your hand on Zoom. So the questions, where did you have the questions at? I saw, there, okay. I do have a filed, with two, looks like neighbors, Dave and Wanda Schock at 17346 McErlane Street in South Bend, has no problem with the variance. And Cynthia and Paula, Redimet, have no problem with it either. They are 17336 or 4 or 2, depending on how I read this. McErlane Street as well, too.
They're the neighbors on either side of us.
Okay.
Yes.
So these are both
We
neighbors.
also
Very
have
good.
paper here with the rest of the neighbors that are in support.
Okay, that was the one I saw this morning. I did not
Yes.
see where they
I
had
believe it
multiple
was sent over
neighbors
on the
noted.
11th.
Can that be entered into that, Brandy? Because it's not, it shows just multiple neighbors on one sheet, but that, since they're not individual, can that even be entered?
I would not recommend it.
Okay. All right. Thanks for your effort, but we can't do anything with it.
Okay.
Donna would like to speak on Zoom.
Donna Tatum, if you unmute yourself, and you have any comments or questions about this petition?
It's Donna Surgis Tatum, and I wrote that inadmissible letter. I'm sorry. Should have had everybody sign it, I guess. We have had discussions with the neighbors. Everybody on the lane, just about, except for one person's on the fence and one is against it. But we all want to support a hobby. It certainly is not obtrusive to us. We have a lot of waterfowl and birds here, and I think a few little chickens would be a lovely addition if that's what they want. We are all in favor of it.
Can you give your address?
Oh, I'm sorry, 17220 McErlane.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate your input.
They did not offer free eggs.
Well, I'm negotiating.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, I don't think that's germane to our decision-making process, but what happens outside this room, is what?
Strike that from the record.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition, please come forward or raise your hand on Zoom. Okay, seeing nobody. Abby, you had something else you wanted to add in there or no? You're good? Okay.
I did want to note a couple more things, though. I forgot to mention that this is just for permission for female chickens, hens. It does not include permission for roosters. They would not be permitted with this action. And I did talk to someone over the phone who said that they were planning on submitting a letter, but I never did end up seeing that letter, unless you saw it, Abby.
Yeah, Joe, I apologize. I do have something to add. I thought you were asking from staff questions.
Okay.
So the Hostettlers did ask for a written commitment. Well, one, that if they move or sell the property, the chicken coop should be torn down. And as we've discussed in prior petitions, runs with the land, that's challenging to enforce. But two, that they be responsible for erecting a fence between our properties prior to building the chicken coop. Is that something that they have discussed with you or that you?
Yes, and that was more in reference to making sure that the coop and run were fully enclosed by a fence as to keep any, like their dog or cats or any animals from getting within the coop. They just want to make sure that their dog does not have access to the chickens, which would not be a problem.
Is that a commitment that needs to be added then to the petition if somebody puts a proposal forward then, or what?
That would be my recommendation, Brandy.
I mean, yeah.
We could require that as a
So somebody makes a
condition.
motion to approve, subject to the conditions as stated, is that good enough?
Subject to a fence being erected to screen the coop.
Okay. And then also, if we have a petition for, we can also stipulate which side of the house we want it on as well too, correct?
You could approve it, the way you would do that would be to approve the variance only on the side that you want it on.
Got it.
And then if you didn't know which side you preferred, but only wanted to approve it on one side, you could do that, but you would have to specifically phrase it as conditioned on the placement of the coop. So you would say you're approving the variance as requested on the side that the coop is placed on.
Folks, help us understand which side the Shocks property, are they to the east or west?
On the left, yeah, so there's already
Okay, great.
privacy shrubs and plants in place on that side, and they also really enjoy chickens, so. And it's also on their garage side, so it wouldn't have any effect on them looking out windows or anything. But on the other side, on the right side, they are perfectly fine with the chicken coop. That is for Paulo and Cindy, going on that side as well, so.
So what I'm getting at is that specifically the Shocks, who, I mean, everyone has established that they don't mind it, but that they specifically asked for screening, if you were to approve it specifically on the west side, to include that on the east side, I don't know.
That's the side we want it on.
The west side is
Personally,
the shock side,
We want it
correct?
between us
Okay.
and the Shocks personally, if it's possible.
Did the neighbors request it regardless of where it's located, or just if it's located on their side?
We're neighbors of Chad and Jennifer, and we're requesting, or who are requesting the variance. The chicken coop would be located next to our property line. They're requesting the following commitments, that they'd be responsible for erecting a fence between our properties prior to building the chicken coop. We have a terrier dog that will need to be prevented from going after the chickens.
Again, this is more the chicken owner's issue than it is anyone else's issue.
No, it's dog owners.
It's the dog owners.
Oh, is
That's
it
what I was
really?
getting
It's the
ready to
dog
say.
owners issue.
They need to keep their dog in their yard. Our
Is
dogs
it
are-
the chicken that's the dog owner's issue?
Yep,
The dog could be
that's why they pay,
deemed
Yeah.
Okay,
dangerous
tax.
now it makes sense, okay.
it's like if it gets in your sheep, you go
Okay.
to the trustee,
I didn't think about it.
trustee pays you for your sheep,
Wow,
then they go back to the dog owner.
wow, I did not realize that. That's exactly the opposite way I thought it would have been.
No, you gotta control
Control your
own
dog, which I get that, okay. Okay, so this is a little more convoluted than I think it really needs to be, but I understand it, I think, so,
Just to add a little more convolutedness, on one of the slides earlier, if I could click in, please. This slide represents a 75-foot distance from the top bank of the creek. And if you guys grant permission to the eastern side, then it would have to go before the drainage board for their approval. If you grant it for the western side and they place it 75 feet away from the top of the bank, which would be just enough space that would be allowed, then they would not be required to get drainage board approval.
Well, I would say they likely might not be, but that would be a determination that would need to be made by the drainage board.
So what you're saying, Ryan, is those purple lines are the 75 feet. Unless they put it above that purple line to the left, they have to go before the drainage board.
And as Abby said, it would be up to the drainage board to make the determination if that counts as the top of the bank and if that distance is correct and if their regulations are all in play.
We're not exacting here, we're leaving that for the drainage board to issue, and then we can go
Yeah.
from there. Understood.
I think the run has something to do with it too,
It might, but
not just the structure.
Right.
probably so.
So they may still need to go to the drainage board regardless, but this at least
Then the other question
is the more desirable.
Health department, well, I think that's Humane Society at this point.
No, the health department, because of the birds carrying bird flu and bronchitis and other compatible diseases.
We have so many wild geese and
birds
ducks on our property.
And
Gotcha.
people,
Gotcha.
and that's why probably the 20-foot rule for keeping the chickens away from the house.
Makes sense.
Where that's where I would say if you're gonna put one there, you gotta put it on the garage side, because now you're not as close to the living quarters.
All right, well, did I ever close out the public portion?
I believe you did.
All right, if I didn't, public portion is now closed. Any additional comments, questions for the petitioners from the board?
And if you need help forming a motion,
Yeah, I was
but you
gonna
know what
say-
you want to do, just ask, I can help.
So we have two requests that we could approve as requested, or we can say one or the other, or we can say a lot of different things. So I guess I'll entertain a motion at this point for this petition.
Okay, so if we entertain a motion for how it's written, then that gives them the ability to put it on either side and go from there, correct?
Correct, down to
So I'll make this easy. I'll
8
make-
foot and 0 feet from the house and 8 foot from the property line.
So I'll make a motion to approve it as it's written.
Okay? We have a
Correct.
motion?
With the condition about the fence or not?
Yeah, you want the fence condition?
Oh,
I'm so confused at this particular moment.
They will be fenced in either way.
So yes, so I'll make a motion to approve it as it's written with a fence and anything else that we've already talked about. How about that?
You can't do that, unfortunately.
You can't do that.
It has to be very
Poor
specific.
Poor
Okay.
Sam won't know what to write.
Yeah, and that'll be tough for Brandy to enforce, so, basically,
Dog issues are wrong.
I'll make a motion to approve it with the fence as it's written.
Okay,
we have a motion to approve the variances as requested with the fence condition included. Is there a motion? Or a second? I'm lost as well.
This is Christine, I'll second.
Thank you, Christine. We have a motion and a second. Sam, would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett? Mr. Ritzema?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Velleman?
I'm going to say no, just because I would have liked to establish some guidelines on it, but that's just my own personal opinion. Have fun with your chickens.
I need a drink.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate that.
Definitely want to make sure you get the drainage board worked out. If you're gonna put it where that doesn't-
I know,
The dog needs, his neighbor's problem.
I know. All right, can we have the reading of petition number 7, please?
The petition of Nathaniel and Jennifer Utz seeking the following variance from section 154.070C1A1 to allow a detached accessory structure with a height of 24 feet where a maximum of 19 feet is allowed. Property located at 58420 Windsor Road, Warren Township, Zoned R, Single Family District, County.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Staff recommends denial of this variance. There's really, when you look at the property and you look at the size and configuration of it, it is nothing unique or that's constricting to the use of the property. So there's not any special condition that would not allow for the use of the property as permitted by everyone else in the neighborhood and the county. And in reviewing the criteria, in particular, the strict application of the terms of the chapter would not allow for a subdivision, which would potentially increase the I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one, pardon me. Strict application of the terms of the chapter would not result in practical difficulty in the use of the property. The property can be used with equal enjoyment as well as any other R single-family district property of similar size in the unincorporated county. Nothing unique about this property has been established.
Very good. This is just a height issue, not a size issue, correct?
This is just a height issue.
Okay, making sure. All right, any questions for staff? All right. Is the petitioner on Zoom or in-house? If you would come up, please, thank you.
My name's Donald Utz. I live I'm Nate's father.
We need your address, please, sir.
60162 Mayflower Road.
Thank you.
He wanted to build a little pole barn behind his house, back against the wooded area of his property. He wanted a second loft in the property. That's why with the 412 pitch, he gets up a little bit over the height of the 19 feet requirement. So that's basically what he wanted. I don't believe he's planning on putting a driveway there. No driveway. It's just for storage, basically.
Okay. Any questions for the petitioner from the board?
You have electricity out there. This is Bob Hawley.
He is not running electricity?
No electricity?
No.
Really?
Any plumbing or gas being
No.
run out to the facility?
No utilities.
Do you happen to know the height on the house right now, the maximum height?
That I do not know.
Looking at the petition, I see a demolition order, but I couldn't see all the way back. Is that existing shed still there, or is that already gone?
He's supposed to take that out
Okay.
prior to the new structure being built.
Okay. So this will take its place there? So there's already existing structure, you're gonna go back in about the same spot?
Yeah, it's back to back. This is his builder here.
Okay.
Mark.
Gotcha, okay. And is there anything special about the loft area that makes it extraordinary that he requires that, or just wants the extra two-story?
It's basically for storage. Him and his wife just got married a year ago, and so they're combining two households into one. So he's got all his stuff and she's got all her stuff, so it's got to fit somewhere.
Could the design of the structure be changed to not have such could maybe a gable that gives them more space above there and still meets the 19-foot requirement?
I'll defer to Mark for that.
Not with the loft area.
I would need your name and address, please, sir, for the record.
My name is Mark Gillis, and I'm at 3075 Cooley Street, Portage, Indiana.
Okay.
But not under current design with the loft area. It's impossible height-wise, meeting minimum requirements for headroom.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions from the board?
The loft area is just for storage, so there's nothing else that we could do to the building to give him that extra storage and stay underneath your head height?
Or square footage like?
Yeah, add square footage to it, I mean.
I don't know what the actual, it's his choice of design. I don't actually know,
Well, there's no pad poured, correct? It's gonna be on a poured footer and a poured concrete slab?
It's on a poured floor.
Okay.
Post frame structure, poured floor.
So in theory, you could widen it or elongate it and get your extra storage that you're looking for and keep your head height to code.
I mean, other than knowing the codes, any shape or whatever is possible.
But he is going with the 412 pitch for snow runoff.
Okay.
Any other questions on the board? Thank you,
Uh,
Jim. Oh, go
Bob
ahead, Bob.
Hawley again, do we have any kind of a rendering or an idea how this is gonna look when it's finished?
Not that I see in what's been filed,
Nothing? Okay.
unfortunately not.
I do on my phone here.
I don't know how we would share that, unfortunately, with people on Zoom, so, okay. Thank you, gentlemen, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
With that, the public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition, please come forward and raise your hand. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to? Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. Any additional comments, questions for the board? I get the 412 pitch thing, but I also, they're not exceeding the square footage allowed by the standard of the ordinance, and then that you could gain that, so yeah. I see your point. Any other comments or questions? Or I'll entertain a motion. Nobody else?
This is Christine Deutscher. I'll make a motion to deny the variance.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll make a motion to second the denial.
Understood. We have a motion and a second to deny the variance as requested. Sam, would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Ritzema?
Keep in mind, a yes
Yes.
vote is yes to deny.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Is this to deny?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Velleman?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variance is denied and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. Can we have the reading of petition number 7, please?
8.
I'm sorry, 8.
The petition of William E. Lappin seeking the following variance from section 154.092A to allow a lot area of 5.9 acres where a minimum of 20 acres is required for Lot 1 of a proposed one-lot subdivision, property located at 67121 Pine Road, Liberty Township, Zoned A, Agricultural District, County.
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is Sean Klein with Area Plan Commission staff. The petitioner would like to subdivide off 5.9 acres around the existing house. The current parcel is about 32 acres, so they have one buildable lot by right. Ordinarily, we would require that the remainder be placed in an outlot. However, in this specific instance, the petitioner suggested their intent to install solar panels in the remaining acreage. And we have received a lease option agreement between the petitioner and a solar energy company in order to do so. Of course, this could always fall through, and if we don't impose the outlot, we could potentially allow for an additional residential use in the agricultural district. Under the circumstances, staff believes that this does demonstrate that the intent here is to provide solar energy generation. And additionally, it really isn't that attractive of a residential lot necessarily. So it's a risk, but I think that staff is willing to take it, and ultimately you'll have to decide if you would like to take the risk as well.
Okay. So an outlot can't even have solar on it then?
Correct.
Okay.
No building permits
Nothing
can be
on,
pulled.
no building, no structure, no any type of anything?
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Exactly.
Not even a chicken coop. All right. Yes, sir.
My name is Edward Fisher. I'm a licensed surveyor. Office is at 303 East 3rd Street in Mishawaka. I'm here representing Mr. Lappin, and Mr. Lappin is here with me also, if you have any questions of him. I think Sean explained to you the situation here, and my client does understand the potential changes that you may make to this petition. You see the overhead utility lines. I think on that prior picture, you could see it better. The solar company wants to use the land from those high tension wires to the southwest is what they intend to occupy. And I think Sean received a 38-page lease option signed. So it appears as though that is a done deal. And if it falls through, as Sean said, other things will have to be addressed. But for now, this is a situation. Mr. Lappin has tenants on the property right now, his nephew, and they are the intended buyers. So if you have any questions of him, he's here. Thank you.
I didn't ask this earlier, Brandy, but can we put conditions on if they don't put the solar array on there within a certain amount of time, that it has to be done as an outlot, or is there anything we can do to make sure we don't create another buildable lot, I guess?
I mean, you could condition the variance on that they put solar panels there, period, and if they don't, within a certain period of time, and then if they don't, then they would just not have it. I don't know that that was what the staff wanted to recommend this time, but that is something you could do.
Right, I'm just looking at options. I mean, right now, we're trusting them that they're gonna do what they say. We're not making them do what they say they're gonna say.
Right. I don't know how practical it would be under the circumstances to posit it on that, because once this is granted, the subdivision will have to be completed before the solar panels are potentially put in, and it would be messy to have to reverse the subdivision if it's even possible.
And if we do that, that would stick again with the whole property, so anybody that buys the property subsequently would have to have a solar array on there, correct? For not,
Well, I mean, we would only be reversing it if they didn't do the solar array,
got it.
but
Okay.
it's questionable whether that's something that we could actually even do.
plain devil's advocate, trust but verify. Any question from the board for the petitioners? All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time. With that, the public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? Please come forward or raise your hand. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to? Please come forward or raise your hand. Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. Any additional comments, questions, or I will entertain a motion?
So the solar panels are supposed to go on the barrel land?
Yes, they'll go on the, yeah.
Is anybody gonna be responsible for tearing the infrastructure out if it goes away?
That'll all be handled through the permitting
I would say
process.
that they have to get permits for that, and I would suppose, I'm guessing that 38-page lease, there's somebody that's responsible for it.
For, the demolition of it later.
Right.
If there is some.
That is stipulated in the agreement.
Is it?
It is,
Solar
yeah.
company is responsible.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions, or I'll entertain a motion?
You love this joke. I make a motion, we accept as proposed to us.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Bob Hawley, I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to accept the variances as requested. Sam, would you call for the vote, please?
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzema?
No.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Bellman?
Yes. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, find the variance is granted and will issue in findings of the facts. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
Can we have the reading of petition number 9, please?
The petition of Roger and Kathy Hareen seeking the following variance from section 154.092A to allow a lot area of 1 acre where a minimum of 20 acres is required for Lot 1 of a proposed 1-lot subdivision. Property located at 18034 Pierce Road, Union Township, Zoned A, Agricultural District, County.
Yes, sir.
So in this case, they are subdividing 1 acre to divide off the existing house. The remaining acreage is going to be placed in an outlot. As it's over 40 acres, it would continue to be viable for agricultural production. Staff recommends approval.
Any question for staff from the board? Mr. Huber.
Good afternoon, Mike Huber, Avonmarsh Consultants, 315 West Jefferson Boulevard, South Bend, Indiana. Here representing the property owners and petitioners. They're also here in the room as well, in case you have any questions for them. Again, I think staff did a pretty good job laying out what we're asking for. We just want to basically subdivide off the existing farmhouse and a 1 acre lot. We are proposing to maintain the remainder of the acreage in an outlot so that it would not be buildable. Then the intention is to keep it as productive farmland moving forward. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
And it looks like currently the lot is 45 or plus or minus acres currently, so if they divided it, it could have 2 buildable lots if they were to do something with it, correct?
It potentially could,
Right.
but we're keeping it as an outlot.
So we're keeping it as only one building and then an outlot where it could not be built.
That's correct.
Perfect, all right. Any questions for the petitioner? All right, thank you, Ms. Huber. The public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition, please come forward or raise your hand on Zoom. Anyone wish to speak in opposition to? Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. Any additional comments or questions, or I will entertain a motion.
Attorney Ritzman, I'll make a motion to approve as written.
Christine Deutscher, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Sam, would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzema?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Vellman?
Yes. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variance granted and will issue in finding of the facts. Thank you, sir. Can we have the reading of petition number 11, please? Right?
11 has been withdrawn.
No.
Oh, no,
10
10
was
was withdrawn.
10 was withdrawn.
Excuse me.
11.
The petition of Betty M. Zepka, revocable trust seeking the following variances. 1 from section 154.092A to allow a lot area of 1.05 acres where a minimum of 20 acres is required for Lot 1 of a proposed 1-lot subdivision. And 2 from section 154.092C to allow a side yard setback of 20 feet where 30 feet is required for an existing garage. Property located at 55840 Sage Road, Olive Township, Zoned A, Agricultural District, County.
All right, this property is at the southeast corner of Sage and Early. 2 variances are requested to subdivide it into a 1.05 acre lot with a single-family home, barn, existing garage, and then the other, the remainder of the property would be placed in an additional lot. In contrast to the last proposal, this is not proposed to be an outlot. However, by right, the property could be divided into 2 lots as it has adequate frontage and acreage, close to being allowed to have 3 lots, but for certain 2 lots. Staff is recommending approval. Otherwise, or under the current zoning ordinance, it could be subdivided into 2 lots by right. and allowing the non-tillable land to be concentrated onto a smaller parcel will allow for the tillable land to be, basically to allow the property with the tillable land to be larger. So staff recommends approval per the proposal based on the state code criteria.
Any questions for staff? All right, Mr. Lang.
Yeah, my name's Terry Lang from Lang, Feeney and Associates. Address is 715 South Michigan Street here in South Bend to represent the trust. The trust is in the process of dispersing of property to heirs, and what they are proposing to do, this petition and the next petition, there are farmhouses located in the middle of agricultural parcels, and we're taking the minimum area around the farm buildings here so that the remaining portion of it will be a viable agricultural use of the property.
Any questions for the petitioner from the board? Thank you, Mr. Lang. The public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to? Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. I'm open to comments, questions, or I'll entertain a motion.
Bob Holly, make a motion to approve the request at 55840 Sage Road.
Sid Schaefer, I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Sam, would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzema?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Velleman?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, find the variance granted and will issue written findings of the facts. We have reading of petition number 12, please.
The petition of Heinrich R. Zebka Revocable Trust seeking the following variances. One, from section 154.092A to allow a lot area of 1 acre where a minimum of 20 acres is required. And 2, from section 154.092C to allow 182 feet of frontage where 200 feet is required for a proposed 1-lot subdivision. Property located at 56700 Spirea Road, Olive Township, Zoned A, Agricultural District, County.
This is Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission staff. The petitioner is proposing to subdivide off 1 acre that would contain the existing house and accessory structures. This would leave approximately 18 acres, which would be placed in an outlot. As such, it would not lead to the creation of any additional buildable lots in the agricultural district beyond what is permitted by right. And furthermore, although an 18-acre agricultural lot may be of limited viability on its own, this one is adjacent to 120-plus acres of currently cultivated farmland. So therefore, staff is comfortable that it can continue to have a productive agricultural use, and we recommend approval.
Thank you. Mr. Lang?
Yeah, Terry Lang from Lang, Feeney and Associates. Our address is 715 South Michigan Street here in South Bend. I represent the petitioner. This is part of the trust that was in the previous petition, 2 family members each having a farm. And again, they're looking to isolate the buildings, as Sean had indicated, for a 1 acre parcel here. Both this parcel and the remaining of the other one that was heard previously are going to continue to be lease farmed by adjacent farmers.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Lang? Thank you, sir. The public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition, please come forward and raise your hand.
My name's Charles Shosker. I live at 28418 State Road 2. This property is behind ours. We might not have been here if we'd have got this piece of paper. We were worried that this was gonna start a subdivision.
It's very, very misleading, isn't it?
Yes. That's why I'm hearing that, and I'd still like to be, that there's not gonna be a subdivision behind my house.
Unfortunately, subdivision, I mean, staff, you can explain it better than I can, why it has to be this.
I really wish there was a better way to phrase that, but if you're just cutting off one parcel, it's a subdivision. So there aren't going to be any more additional houses, just the one that's already there. The remaining 18 acres, they won't be able to pull a building permit for it, so.
What is their plans with that?
They have designated an outlot, so an outlot cannot be built upon, so it will only ever be farmed, or I guess left fallow if they don't want to farm it. But there cannot, since it's designated an outlot, they cannot build on that second parcel then. So only the single house that's there will remain, and then the rest of the land will be farmed, hopefully.
Okay, yeah, hopefully.
Yes.
That's what our concern was, we didn't want a bunch of houses behind us.
Correct.
My neighbor's here also, and, do they want to tear down the house and build another one, or?
Nope. Just the way the code reads, the ordinance reads is, if you want to section out that little bit because it's zoned agricultural and it's less than 20 acres, we have to give them what's called a subdivision to be able to do that. But the way they wrote this is, they're gonna continue with, basically wherever that grass is that you see on there is gonna be that parcel, and then everything that's farmed currently will be an outlot that can only ever be farmed or just left alone, but nothing could ever be built there.
Okay. All right, yeah, that was my only.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yep, thank you.
You've been very patient, so I appreciate that too.
Yeah, I was wishing that one was first, although it has been an experience.
Sure. Thank you. Anyone wish to speak in opposition to this petition? All right, seeing none, the public portion is now closed. I'll entertain a motion or any additional comments or questions.
I'll make a motion to approve as it's written.
Bob Holly seconds that motion.
We have a motion and a second to accept the variances requested. Can you call for the vote, please?
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzema?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Velleman?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds these variances granted, or this variance granted, and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you, Mr. Lang. All right.
Am I wrong? That's a little misleading when you say it can never be built on again. It has to go.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
I would,
bunch of hoops.
I would caution that in the future too, and say, as it's proposed, it
As
is an
it's
outlot. However, if they were to subdivide it in the future, they'd have to go through a new subdivision process.
You want me to go grab them and tell them that?
No.
No.
Well, that was a question that I had, was,
Yeah.
I mean, technically, I guess they could file for it again.
They could, yes,
Go
they could
through
come back, but
appeals.
they'd have to go through this whole process again, so, yeah.
And they would be notified again.
And they
because
would be,
it would
correct, yeah.
require variance, so.
So never say never.
There's no such thing as that.
Yeah, it's a good lesson.
Can we have the reading of petition number 13, please?
The petition of South Bend Speedway LLC seeking a special use to allow a fire station, property located at 25698 State Road 2 Highway, Warren Township, zoned R, single-family county.
All right, this request is for a special use, which, just like the special use heard earlier today, is a recommendation to the county council, but ultimately voted on by them. The petitioner is requesting a special use to allow a fire station in a residential zone. As proposed, it would be located at it is located at the southwest corner of property that's owned by the South Bend Motor Speedway. However, it would be subdivided off into its own 5-acre parcel. So following the special use, if it were to be approved by the county council, it would also require a subdivision and submittal through plan review. When staff is reviewing a special use, we're looking at all the criteria outlined in the zoning ordinance, and then the state code criteria for special uses per the state statute and the zoning ordinance. So institutional uses like fire stations are customary and typical within residential districts. It's allowed, but as a special use, similar, well, institutional uses typically allowed in residential districts are schools, churches, and other, say, public uses. It's anticipated that the proposed development would meet all the standards of the zoning ordinance, as indicated in the application. Landscaping and other features are still yet to be reviewed. And as shown in the comprehensive plan, staff feels that the proposed use would be compatible with the recommendation. Goal 5, provide adequate infrastructure and urban services. Staff would recommend that the ABZA send this to County Council with a favorable recommendation. And then just want to note that we did receive a handful of comments in regards to the petition. One letter was opposed, but that was specifically for the South Bend Motor Speedway. And then another phone call was received also in opposition to the request. And then just want to clarify that the fire station is proposed for the township. It's not the fire station specifically for the South Bend Motor Speedway. Don't know if that was clear because they are the petitioner, because they're the property owner.
Right. So you brought up, so this is a special use to allow the fire station to exist. Since it's considered residential, they would have to abide by any other codes enforcement for that as well too. So if they didn't want to do landscape and all that, they would have to come back again after the design is done to request any other variances once the special use is granted, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
But provided that they met all the development requirements, it would sail through plan
No
review.
problem, correct.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to note, because it's interesting, the South Bend Motor Speedway, we don't have a zoning map on here. Whoops, sorry. But the northern portion where the track is located is zoned commercial. The southern chunk of this property is residential. So if it were located in the commercially zoned section, it would be allowed by right. But because this lot is split zoned, it requires a special use.
So if they moved a little further north, it would be okay, but since they're on the south side. Interesting.
Yep.
Cheaper ground.
Yeah, I'm finding that out.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Brian Blight, Core Construction, 1650 South Bend Avenue. Yeah, thank you for the recap there. Pretty much hit all the buttons. The current Station 19 down off Crumpton Highway is kind of served its useful purpose for the township. It's outlived its life. It's not current in standards as far as accessibility in and out with their trucks. Also, just looking at overall response times, with the way the population and areas have developed, they need to get a new station built. So this location came up through discussions with the Speedway to portion off this land. They weren't using it, and it made for good accessibility to State Route 2 for calls and otherwise.
So this is so they're going to eliminate the other station and rebuild this in its place, correct?
That is correct, yeah. After this station is built, they'll either demolish the existing building, or if there's another purposeful use for it, then they may consider leaving it in place for that.
Gotcha. All right. Any questions for the petitioner from the board?
Bob Hawley, is the property subject to septic and well?
Yes. To follow up with that a little bit too, we filed the petition for the subdivision process last week. That would obviously include the soil sampling, the site plan for that included the proposed septic location, proposed well location. So that'll come up here in the next couple of weeks for the review.
You said it's a 5-acre site, right?
5 acre, that's correct, yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, this is Christine Deutscher. How much traffic will there typically be in and out of the station? Like how many fires will you respond to on a daily or weekly basis? Do you know any of that?
I don't have those figures, I apologize. I do know that they exist. They have to track those numbers. They track their monthly calls and how many times they are out. And I do know that it came up a couple of months ago when we had a township meeting, that a similar request came through. And I think this year they're tracking, or their total numbers for last year were tracking slightly less than they were in the prior year. But I know that doesn't help exactly give you the quantity of runs, but the information is statistically available. I just don't have it here in front of me.
Okay, thanks.
Again, a question from Bob Hawley. How many trucks or fire trucks will you have there?
So this station is going to have 4 apparatus bays to it. I'm sorry, actually, it's got 3 apparatus bays to it. One of the bays will have dual trucks parked in there, but essentially it's a 3-bay structure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be a driveway from behind the station directly to the speedway itself?
No, there'll be no connection of this 5-acre subdivision, or the portion that's being subdivided off would not have any access to, when you say the subway, or the speedway property, I mean, it's gonna be around them. It's still their property on the other 2 remaining sides, but there'll be no driveway or access directly to it. One, I guess, kind of caveat to that they'll work with, though, is, as you know, there's a lot of snowmobilers in the wintertime. A lot of them park in the speedway lot, and then they go from there and they go elsewhere throughout the county. One of the trails, or their mapped trails, kind of goes right through the corner of where that is. So we'll work with them to get it signage and that relocated around there. But that's the only traffic that I know of on that corner. Otherwise, it's a slightly wooded lot.
Any other questions from the board?
So it's on a dead-end road, basically? No.
Nope, it's on the corner of Peach and Grant. Southwest corner of Peach and Grant. And that proposed site layout there is pretty accurate. You on the eastern side of that view there would be your return entry for the trucks coming back from a call. The wider entrance to the left on the bottom would be where the trucks will exit when they are leaving to go on a run. A little bit of visitor parking in the front at the bottom, and then employee parking on the back side.
That's maybe what I should have said.
T-road, okay.
The T-road.
If I may ask, is there anything known about why the direction was chosen to have it face Grant versus Beach?
I don't know that there was specifically, other than just giving them access heading east on Grant to then connect up with where, I can't remember, what is it? That's essentially where it runs into Crumpstown Highway there, but that's the intent there. It just gives them access in that direction, and then if they do need to, they just go around the corner and head north up, straight up Peach to State Route 2.
Thank you.
The only other driveway discussion that's taken place was the possibility of one connecting on the west side to Peach, but if that were to take place, it would never be an exit location. Exiting will always be on the south side where the station is oriented. It would only be for trucks returning from a call. And at this time, it's not something that we're planning to entertain. We're just looking at the 2 southern side curb cuts.
All right. Thank you, sir. The public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? We do have a letter from a Glenda Bogucki at 25418 Dana Drive. And states, I have no objection to the fire station at the South Bend Speedway. That's about all that really is germane to this board. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to? Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. Any additional comments, questions, or I will entertain a motion to send this to the county council with a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation.
Oh, hold on. Joe, did you see the? It looks like you did get one comment.
Oh. Sorry, I didn't see that. Carlisle Neff at 25431 Grant Road does have a question. Currently, there's no stoplights on the roads access to State Road 2 from Peach. Many accidents already occur on Quince and State Road 2. Will that be addressed if the fire trucks have to leave out onto that? Will there be like one of those, I guess my opinion, would there be one of those lights that starts flashing to stop traffic when the truck's gonna start coming out maybe?
It's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but it's something we can look into, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they'll tend towards adding it more than they're gonna tend towards avoiding it, I guess would be my comment there. It's something that would probably have to be worked out, though, with the county.
With the, well, yeah, State Road 2, that's the state.
Oh, the state, I'm sorry, yeah,
that'd
it would
the
be state,
we'd
yeah,
have to work
yep,
that out with.
yeah. So they'd have to approve that before we could entertain it. I mean, I appreciate the question, because it's, absolutely
legit,
valid,
yeah.
but yeah.
Okay. That is not something that we can address at this point, but.
Something to look into, though.
It is noted, thank you.
I'll make a motion for in favor.
One
to
more
send on it.
question.
Oh.
Sorry, he just sent it.
Will noise be addressed with a limited siren in residential area? Unfortunately, that's not something we're addressing here at this time. We're just allowing it or not allowing it to progress. So we don't have that information, unfortunately, Mr. Neff.
I'd say we say no comment and send it on.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
So your motion is to send it with no recommendation?
No recommendation.
No recommendation either way.
DJ already started making a motion, didn't you?
Well, what'd you make a motion for?
To send it off with approval.
Okay, so we have a motion to send it to the special use to the county council with, for approval. Is there a second?
Second year, Bob Hawley.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to send it to the county council with a favorable recommendation. Sam, would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Ritzema?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
No.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Velleman?
No, and not because I object to fire stations, but there's a lot of questions that come up when we allow this that aren't addressed, just like what Mr. Neff has here as well, too, of what can happen with all these different things. So this could go forward and move and be favorably recommended, and let the county council could let it go without having any other things addressed, in my opinion. So this is not the best avenue, I guess, in my opinion. But regardless of what I think, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the special use, will issue, I lost it. After careful consideration, will forward this special use with a favorable recommendation to the county council. Right? Very good. Too many unanswered questions. So, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Everyone on Zoom, thank you for your time. In my possession, I have a finding of the facts from the April 14th, 2021 ABZA meeting. I'll entertain a motion to accept as written.
Bob Hawley makes a motion to accept the findings of the facts
Is there a second?
for the meeting on April the 14th, 2021.
I'll second it, Sid Schaefer.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Also have the minutes from the April 14th, 2021 ABZA meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
You want a motion, Joe?
Yes, please, Bob. Yes, Bob, if you would like to make a motion to accept the
Make
minutes
the
as,
motion that we accept the minutes as presented for the meeting held on April the 14th, 2021.
is there a second?
Johnny Ritzman, I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Very good. Thank you all for your time. I think I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Unless anybody has anything else they want to talk about? Understood. All right. I make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Christina, Donnie, thank you, Bob, thank you all. We'll see you later.
Thank you.